Our topic for today, clock system. So, a training method that for me is very important, especially for beginners. So if you want to know it, please watch it. Hey guys, Guro Gani here of Rapido Realismo Kali Training Group. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe and click the notification bell so you will be notified whenever we uploaded new videos. As much as possible, I'll try to upload every week of our training, tutorials, tips, and interviews, and hopefully gear to review. So again, please support me in this platform. Okay, so let's go to the video for today. Okay guys, so for years, what I'm doing and what I'm teaching my student mostly when I'm starting teaching beginners is not only the usual, which is the 12 strikes and other combination, but for some way it's easier for me to teach and base my way of teaching into clock, which is the 12 o'clock, the 12 o'clock analog type, which is with angles. So it's easier to teach the angles that are based on this clock because most of the people already have the grasp of the look of the clock. I think most of us have a clock, analog clock at our home, or if you don't have, at least here in the Philippines, mostly people have it. So if you base on that way, so it's easier for instructor like me to teach the angles instead of saying it angle number 1, angle number 2, angle number 3. So for them, they will think, oh, okay, so what is the angle number 1, what is the angle number 2? But when you said angle number 1 o'clock or angle 2 o'clock or the angle of 3 o'clock, it's easier for us to create it in our mind that angle number 1 is this, angle number 2 is this, angle number 3 is this, and so on and so on. So you can practice different kind of strike, like for example, if you want to strike with a pitik, or if you want to strike a follow through with 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, or you can even create a strike with a combination. So for example, let's start with training it with 1 o'clock with one strike. 1 o'clock slash. This is a broken strike. Instead of following it, let's do it like this. Or in our case, we call it patagtag, which is the 2 strike of broken. But instead of calling it patagtag, we just need to we will just call it in a clock analog clock, which is 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Why? Because we're just striking 1. But we're doing it like this. We're not following it. It's broken. It's not follow through, just broken. It's up to you. But let's start it with follow through. For example, when I said 1 o'clock, it's 1 o'clock. When I said 2 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock. 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and so on and so on. And you can even combine it by saying 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So, okay, so my method is this. Most of the time when I'm teaching my student, it's easier for me when they try to bring a clock or try to bring a picture of a clock and let them think about those angles. Then from that, I will tell them to strike 1 at a time with the angles of the clock. Then after that, I'll try to ask them to combine at least 2. So what I did is I created a series, which is 1 o'clock series. When you said 1 o'clock series, we'll start, every strike will start with 1 o'clock, then followed by another o'clock. For example, 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, then so on and so on. Then the rest will go through. For example, you can start with 2 o'clock, you can start with 3 o'clock, you can start whatsoever what you want. In that case, it will be easier for students to imagine the angles instead of just telling them this is the combination of this and this, which is good. But the problem is for you to be able to go with every possible angles. It will be a lot easier when you go to the clock system, which is everyone knows that we have it, okay? We have the angles. For example, if I said 1 o'clock to 11 o'clock, everyone will see that this is. If I said 5 o'clock to 5 o'clock bounce to 11 o'clock, or 5 o'clock bounce to 9 o'clock, it will be a lot easier. It will, you can just create a curriculum by writing it and just tell your student to do it at home and strike it. This will be your assignment. Just create drills for student to follow, and it will be a lot easier instead of just telling them, okay, you need to do at home the combination 1, combination number 2, combination number 3. So they need to memorize it. But when you said, okay, you need to do the 1 o'clock series, then followed by 2 o'clock series, then they will just look and imagine the clock, and that's it. Then you can combine it after you try it, for example, 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. If you want to do a 3 strikes, then that will be a lot easier as well, because, for example, if you say 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock, then 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, then 12 o'clock, so it's up to you. It's easier because you can just write it down and then let them do it at home. You can have a set of drills at the class, then at home they can just, okay, so this is your assignment, so this is what we need to do to be able to really get used to into striking, you know. So everyone knows that there's a strike that is really effective, that there's a strike that you need to train a lot. But for me, everything you need to train a lot. Even they said that the most basic is caveman is the X. But for me, you need to train it a lot for you to be able to get used to it and to be able for you to be able to use it in sparring. So if you want your student to be better at striking and for them to be motivated to train, then try to do it in a clock, then do a series of this and combine it. It will be endless, okay? If you want to combine, it will be endless. For example, if I want to say, try to practice the 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. See? 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, then 4 o'clock. So, but at some point they will say, this is not really good for me because 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock is really too much for my race. It's okay because it is just a drills. For me, these drills is finding which one is effective to you and which one is do you need to work on. I can tell you that this one is not effective to me or to some people, but if I tell them, I told them why 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock, just practice it. Then try to do it with a partner. Then try to do it with a partner which is actually striking. And at some point they will realize, okay, so I need to tweak my body. That's the reason why I'm not getting it, because I don't tweak my body. But when I do it with this, I tweak it, or I twist my body with the right way, it comes really good. So for me, clock is the simple, not the best, but for me it's the most simple way to teach beginners, because I know for a fact that if you are been into Philippine martial arts for so long, you already know how to you already know which one is effective for you, which one is good, which one is not. But for beginners, most of the beginners, they will think of which one is the best for them based on their instructor. As an instructor, we are a guide, right? We're just a guide. So if you let them experience it, explore it, and if you let them see what is wrong and what is right for them, then they will realize that, okay, so this is not for me, this thing is for me, this thing is for me. Then from then on, they can easily be educated in terms of, okay, when I said 1 o'clock, 9 o'clock, so they say, then if they find a partner which is actually not a Philippine martial arts, it's easier for them to say, oh, based on this, 1 o'clock, then 9 o'clock, then let's practice it. It will be easier for them to find a partner because the system that they're doing is actually just easy. Okay? So I'm not saying that they need to practice blocking. At this point, we're focusing more on the striking. Okay? So let me show you some of the drills that I'm teaching my student, so for them to be easily retained. So this is the progression. First, do the clock system in 1 strike. This is the broken strike. 4, 5, 6 will be here, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Then you can do it just one strike with footwork. In our case, we do it with lutan. 1, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and so on and so on. Then second progression, try to do it per se, like what I said earlier. Try to do it in a series. For example, 1 o'clock series, 2 strikes. 1 o'clock, I'm starting with 1 o'clock with 2 strikes. 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock. 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock. 1 o'clock to 7. 1 o'clock to 8. 1 o'clock to 9. 1 o'clock to 10. 1 o'clock to 11. Then 1 o'clock to 12. So what I'm using is bouncing. You can do it also in a follow through strike, which is couple, or the tick, which is mostly palobo. Okay, let's say 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 8 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 9 o'clock, because you're following it, follow through. You're not breaking it. You're not bouncing it to other side. Okay? So tagpas, yung patatan in our case is this, and then the rebounding. Okay? So 1 o'clock to 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 11 o'clock, which is the X, and 1 o'clock to 12 o'clock. So you got already that thing, right? Then for them to continue training, you can ask them, okay, after that, try to practice 2 o'clock series up to 12 o'clock series. Okay, then after that, this is just a series that they need to do at home. Then let them practice it now with 3 strikes. For example, 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. It's up to you to add 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock, then a thrice. 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock, then bounce to 12. 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. It's up to you. It will be easier for them because they have the guide, which is the clock. And it will be easier for you to write it down, or just try to message them and tell them that this is what you're gonna do, what you'll need to do with the setup time. So it's like way to being an educated way of training. What I mean is just having a set of curriculum or having a set of thing to follow for your student. I'm not saying this is the best way to teach your student, but for me, I found out that this is the best way, because most of the, especially beginners, it's easy for them to get bored just doing 1,000 times of doing this and this, then doing this and this. So what I do is, instead, okay, try to finish first the 1 o'clock series, then try to add 2 o'clock series, then try to, and so on and so on. And after that, I'm trying to ask them, okay, now try to add 1 strike. For most of the time, what I'm gonna do is try to add a strike, which is a thrust on the last part, followed, and then after that, try to thrust on the last part on the third one, and followed by another strike, which is anything goes. It's up to you. You can write it down, or you can just let them explore it. But for me, what I do is mostly I try to give them a set of series. So because we all know that beginners, they always like to listen. They always tend to rush things. So I try to lay it down first with the clock system, then followed by this, then followed by a thrust and a slash, then followed by a slash to a thrush. So it will become a thrust. It will become 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock, then followed by 12, then a thrust. So then after a month of doing that, I'll try to ask them, okay, now I want you to dance it. Try to do it in a freestyle series. Because let's say we have big open wide strike, but mostly in our case, in RRK, we tend to hit only here. with the box. So in order for us to make it team move with power, we need to do it a lot of times, and a lot of time meaning you need to do it 1,000 times. I can't tell my student to do this 1,000 times. It's been boring. But if I said, okay, 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 1 and 4, most of the time I'll try to tell them to use a training sword or a flat edge training material like a polymer or anything as long as it's flat. For me, in my perspective, it's easier to teach the wrist, the movements of the hands and the movements of the shoulder along with that weapon than taratan, which is circles. A lot of the beginners tend to do this, tend to do that. Sometimes they do this, sometimes they're doing like this, instead of just doing it correctly, which is this one. But when you're using a flat side, it will be easier. Okay, so this is a non-instructional because this is non-instructional video. It's more of a tip for mostly Filipino martial arts instructors or trainers and to students on how to train and base your training to a clock that will enhance your striking procedures or striking materials just by adding 1,000 times of repetition with a set of goals, which is finishing a series. For example, you're finishing a 1 o'clock series. When I said, okay, let's try to finish 1 o'clock for this day, then tomorrow try to finish the 2 o'clock series, and so on and so on. So you have 12 days, right? So 12 days of series. Then after that, you can tell them, okay, now you can mix it by adding it a thrust, a slash, or a 12 slash, which in RK, which is common, that we end it on 12, 3 o'clock to 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. So in this case, when I said to my student in the last part of training, okay, now try to apply it in a freestyle motion, they will do this. Then I said, okay, try to do it in a following or follow through strike. So same thing, you can still retain the narrow movements, even doing it with the follow strike, which is what we aim. Then you can combine the follow through and the patagtag. Okay, so for me, this serves me very good teaching my student. I'm sorry again, I'm not really fluent in English. I can understand, but I'm not really good in speaking. But I just want to share. So if you like this video, please subscribe and support me by clicking subscribe, liking it, and sharing it so everyone can see it. So I can still continue producing videos. So, and please subscribe and click the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever we uploaded another video. Okay, so again, so this is not purely an instructional but more of a tip. So try to do the clock system. Okay, so I think you have the idea of a clock, then try to do it. Okay, so that's, you can do it for a week, and let's see how you will progress and how you will be really good in striking. Okay, thank you, and pugay.